The remote hilltop village of Rennes Chateau, deep in the Languedoc, is a place of amazing panoramic views. It's perched on a steep mountainside with a wide, sweeping view from the mountain of Bougarac right round to the Pyrenees. It was virtually unknown, even in France, until the 60s, when a Frenchman called Gérard Doucet wrote a book called The Trésor Maudit, the accursed treasure, which focused on the sudden attaining of wealth by a previously destitute parish priest called Béranger Saunière. And there the matter might have rested, until an English scriptwriter came down to this part of the world on holiday, read Doucet's book, and persuaded the BBC to do a 1-hour documentary about the place. He was very persuasive, and he's also an incredibly skilled storyteller, a master of his craft, a man called Henry Lincoln. And he broadcast a 1-hour television program which was scenically fascinating, with views of the village, the surrounding countryside, and the interior of a rather bizarrely decorated church. And he gave a narrative, and being an ex-actor, he had a good speaking voice, compelling manner. He gave a narrative which was utterly fascinating. This was broadcast in 1972, and I remember seeing it and being enthralled. Here was a tale of mystery, intrigue, hidden treasure, secret societies, church repression, all woven in together by a master of his craft. And Henry traced the story back to the time of the Merovingian kings of France, on through the Carolingian era, into medieval times. And he described a secret society called the Priory of Sion, which had been acting under the radar of the church, running almost an alternative view of life. And he credited this society with the foundation of the Knights Templar and tied that into the story, implying, but not stating, that there might be Templar treasure at the bottom of the mystery. The priest, Béranger Saunière, came to the village in the 1890s, and we know from the parish records that he was broke, and so was the parish. The church was in a vile state of disrepair. The roof leaked on priest and parishioner alike, and Saunière had to go out and shoot and fish to be able to eat. He borrowed money from a nearby parish priest in Rennes-les-Bains, the Abbé Boudet, and started to refurbish the church. And this was the point where Henry's story really began to take off. It was alleged by Henry that during the church restoration, Lincoln discovered secret coded documents which led him to a treasure of enormous size. He paved the road from the nearby town of Cuisa right up to the mountaintop village of Rennes Chateau, which is 6 or 7 kilometers long. He laid on piped water for the village for the very first time. He bought land there, built a magnificent villa, the Villa Bithania, laid out a landscaped garden, built an orangery, a sort of glorified greenhouse which skirted the entire cliff face, and then a rather bizarre-looking tower with a turret called the Tour Magdala, which he turned into his library. He was suspended by the church for a period of time on the charge of selling masses, charge of simony. And there is some evidence indeed that he did that. But that doesn't account for more than 0.5% of what he spent. When we calculate his spending in today's terms, we are talking tens of millions of euros. A lot of money. I was totally fascinated because into this story Henry wove everything. The crusade against the Cathars, the Knights Templar, secret societies. He threw in everything into the pot with the possible exception of Batman and Bloody Robin. And these were in the days before DVD recording was invented, so we couldn't rerun the program and check it and stop it. After an hour of total fascination, we were left in limbo, panting for the next episode. We had to wait 2 or 3 years. But another episode came along that was equally as heady a mixture as the first. And 2 or 3 years later, a third. In 1982, in collaboration with Michael Bagent and Richard Lee, Henry published a book called The Holy Blood and the Holy Grail. I have no idea how many copies it sold to this day, but by 1994, it had sold over 7 million copies worldwide. And it was used as the basis for research by Dan Brown when he was writing the Da Vinci Code, at which point further illustrated editions were issued, and God knows what its world sales are like today. The book caused an absolute sensation. It was condemned as blasphemous because into this glorious mixture, Henry had inserted the information that Jesus had married and had children and had descendants who were still living among us.